Welcome back to the Charismatic Voice. I was recently scolded for not analyzing Led Zeppelin on the channel yet. So today we're going to take our first deep dive into them, beginning with Kashmir. I know that this song is legendary. I feel like I should have heard it somewhere in a store or on the radio, but growing up I listened to primarily classical, a cappella, and country music, and then I spent over a decade performing opera, so I really have no idea what to expect. Let's get to it. So I do think that I've heard this riff before. It sounds like something from an action film. I feel like maybe it was placed in an action film. It's perfectly designed to build anticipation. We're going to go back and we're going to look at the compositional construction of that and try to explain a little bit of what makes that so great. And I'm not as familiar with this vocal line, this melody. I wonder if it was just an instrumental that I heard before, or maybe they ducked it at the vocal line. The vocal line has so much presence in it, and there's boldness and carelessness at the same time. Just the initial impression of his voice is it's a very attractive sound. We're going to go back and look at all of those little bits as well. So back to the beginning. So the construction of this riff is essentially a bunch of half steps at first, and then there's a whole step at the end before it loops. I'll point out where that whole step is in just a moment. A half step is one of the smallest intervals, so distances between two pitches that we have in our scale. And that just one half step is where you get your Jaws theme from, right? That's like, oh no, a shark is about to get me. Bonham, right? That kind of thing. It builds tons of tension and you feel like something terrible is about to happen. These half steps, you have some of them stacked in a row, and then they resolve into a major step and back down. And so we have that tension built up, but it then releases and it makes you feel like, yeah, that tension turned into something awesome. And I think that's one of the reasons why I feel like, oh yeah, this should be in an action film. It would be perfectly placed. Probably has been many times. So we'll go back one more time and talk about where that whole step happens. Half step, half step, half step. That was the whole step. So that was the whole step part that happened right before hopping back down. Keep going. It's really well constructed. So Robert Plant, he, I like the way his sound just pours forth. And it sounds like he's almost speaking in sentences that are very linear in a way. So when he's going up and down, I don't get a huge variation in dynamic. Voices normally, when they go higher, are going to be louder. Lower tendency to be softer, general rule. Can be broken, of course, and that would be all within the same vocal register, by the way. So as he goes up and then goes down, he keeps the same volume going. It's like he's a compressor, which is a plug-in in music production that helps keep dynamics pretty equal and keep a singer very present all the time, essentially. But he just sounds like he does that himself. And there's moments when he does some sliding, and I think that's the carelessness that I picked up on ahead of time. But then the boldness is the way he just lets that sound pour forth always. Yeah, it's really nice. We're going to keep going. Oh, I also really like some of the end vibrato moments he adds in there. The little fast vibrato that comes in. Yeah, very attractive. Whoa. That was sudden and cool. Whoa. There's something about him that reminds me of Dio, of Ronnie James Dio. You guys know how much I love Dio. Huge compliment. Maybe it's the hair tosses that he's doing every now and then, or the way that he approaches the mic. There's such a spirit of giving and generosity of sound when he approaches the mic. I think it's also the timing when he lets the vibrato enter. And I think it's the choice. Often I hear really clear choices if he's choosing to slide or stick a note. This is cool. Okay, yeah, definitely has some similarities to Dio. The way that he just played with an O and decided to play with different vowels within that O. He's playing with a diphthong there, going from an open O to an oo sound, right? And even like makes it navigate towards like a schwa, like an sound at one point, and then flipped it up into falsetto at the last moment. It's so playful, and it's really exploring not just pitches, but different kinds of mouth shapes to go along with it. It's a fun glottal stop. Whoa. It's fascinating how sometimes they interrupt themselves and have a quick shift to something, right? That's happened at least 3 times now where I felt shockingly shifted to another thing, often with quite a bit of cymbal, really dragging me along to another area of music. It's so shocking. It's shocking. I feel almost speechless. This section is so awesome. It makes me laugh and giggle so much because it's so explorational of all of these different sounds you can make in your vocal tract. But it's not just exploring, it's essentially bringing in all kinds of expression. All of the sounds are generated from an emotional standpoint. But like, if I think scientifically about what's happening inside the vocal tract, I'm like, there's a part of me that's going nerd out. And then another part of me is going, whoa, look at all that emotion he's pouring in there. And it's just so cool all at once. Okay, well, we're going to go back to this section. Is it here? In that one moment, he just is doing so much of it. This guy is so creative. Like we had ooh, oh, yeah, baby. There's several vowels in there. Let's go back. So woo, 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 woo. So he's playing with oohs and then yeah. I think it even goes to an a, so you have a, and so a, e, a, and ooh. There might have been a little o in there at one point too. And then on top of all of that, you know, he's moving fast pitch-wise, so his true vocal folds are going wacka wacka, right, and creating different true pitches underneath it. But then he's got this distortion that he's added on top, which is probably, it sounds to me like a higher distortion, so probably not false folds, but probably higher. We'd need to look in his throat to know exactly what, but my hunch would be probably more around the area, epiglottic folds area. And so he's adding that on top of it as he's twisting and turning at the microphone. Like, there's so much is happening. Oh, I went back too far, sorry. Do just like a little crack off of that top one there. Whoa. And then he like channels a little bit of Elvis, right? In this totally clean lower singing. What? Makes a person think that they're gonna go ba really fast. I think if somebody told me in a lesson and they said I'm gonna go ba and make a really cool jazz sort of improvisation out of that, I would say, cool, try it, yeah, but commit to it. And most of the time, it's just not gonna work. They're not gonna really commit to it enough to make it work. I would wonder in my head, how are they going to make this work the first time they said it anyhow? But now that I've seen him go ba 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 and shake his head with that much commitment, I now know that if anybody ever comes to me again and says, I'm going to go ba 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 really fast and it's going to sound cool, I'll say, yeah, it's possible. You can do it. I love the song. What was that? Oh my goodness. It's something about that whole interlude of this improvisation was also just sexy and fun at the same time. Like, I don't know how he managed to pull that off with all of these different levels of creativity. I'm just like, wow. You are one confident man. Good job. I love the sides he's doing in this. It sounds like there's some sort of filter they put on his voice at this point. I think like some sort of phasing that I hear on it. But it could keep going. Interesting. So in the instrumental there, I heard some definite harmonic scales, which are very indicative of Middle Eastern rhythms. I know that Kashmir, I think, is a place, I want to say it's in Pakistan, or it's maybe a place that's contested over, essentially in Asia, in the mountains. And I'm interested in the fact that they decided to bring in some Middle Eastern sounds. Maybe, I wonder if that's pulling from nearby ethnic music as well. Right in here. Get it right on the mark. You hear that in the background? The sort of exotic sound of instruments. Not really what you expect from this sort of action film riff to hear suddenly a Middle Eastern flavor in a song. Very interesting combination. Huh. Oh, that's a stem note. There's this guy, him. I think that's Jimmy Page. I looked at the names of all the band members ahead of time, so I can try to pick them up a little bit better. And I think this is Jimmy Page. He's cracked me up multiple times with his wiggly dance moves on stage. I think that happened in the very beginning. I saw him do like a little body roll that happened. He was so fun. It's fun. He's a very, very entertaining guitar player to watch. I read the lyrics of this ahead of time and was really touched, honestly, by them because uh, to me it seemed like it was uplifting. It was about, for me, I related it to a lot of the travels I've done in various places in the world, and the beauties in them, and the way that once you've made those memories, you can really think back to these wonderful places, almost like moments of peace here and there. And of course, we continue to make these memories as we live. But I think it's so amazing how we can store up those scenes from traveling. I specifically remember spending a semester abroad in China at one point and getting to go up to Tibet. And he was talking about deserts in this last section. And there was another part where he's talking about the stars. And I was thinking about how gorgeous those stars were in Tibet. And then the desert and the way it was swept and just barren and extraordinary. And the contrast between the desert and the sky was amazing. And the sky was so blue. Things like that, I love that songs can help evoke that memory once again. And I feel that the lyrics of this song really let me dive into almost a dreamland, as if I were back there once more. It's beautiful. In the past, it led me to this place with yellow desert screen. My Shangri-La beneath summer moon. Oh, I will return again. Sure as the dust it blows out in June, moving through Kashmir. He's just so good at making noises. It's like, ooh. It's just, he commits 100% to them, says, I'm going to do this. He has no reservation whatsoever. And then the sounds that come out of his mouth, they're based on really good pitches. But beyond that, they're just based on amazing human expression. That has been one of my favorite parts so far. I think I loved the improvisational section probably the most, but this kind of went back. He did a similar pattern on the O's earlier, but this time it was after a verse talking about languages, essentially about like lilting sounds in his ear, but he didn't understand what they were saying. And again, this reminds me of those times when I traveled and like in Tibet or in Poland at one point when I was there, and I'd hear these voices around me, couldn't understand the words they were saying, but I could listen to the pitches and the cadence of their speech. It was almost like they were singing songs as they spoke. And I love that after those words, he went into this O section, and it's almost as if the O's were the lilting voices that were heard. And when he flipped up to the falsetto, I feel like I heard that sometimes, just going around and listening to music people were making while they thought they were just talking. It was super gorgeous. One more time. Oh. something about that part that reminds me of some of the Chinese operas I saw. The oh, right, it has the glottal attack on it. Oh, back a little bit. Oh, right there. Oh, there's that really cool Middle Eastern scale in there. Again, it's a harmonic minor scale, and it's so cool. And I like the way he's just improvising again, but we're getting something totally different from last time. It feels like he has unfathomable depths of creativity from which to improvise. Such a cool combo. He's purposely breaking his voice in here, adding breaks in. It's so mind-boggling, the extent of his expression and how he's employed it in the song. It's fascinating to listen to. All right, tons of breaks. Wow. These drum fills are getting me every time. It feels like the instruments build up and then the drums take it over. So you hear sort of this often a Middle Eastern scale that's upward moving in the pitch, and then there's a tumble over that happens in the drums. And often I'm really particularly appreciating still those cymbals, and the cymbals, the way they indicate often shifts in the music. So cool. I think there's something about that end vibrato. I mentioned Elvis once before, how he has like a very fast vibrato in some of these last bits of phrases there. Also, every time I'm looking at his jaw position and tongue position, it's spot on. I see the tongue like on yeah, and here the tongue is really high arced up. The jaw opens really nicely, so you don't see any sort of clenching that's happening that would indicate tension. I'm amazed by how they've kept this same pattern of the rising instruments into the drums and the way the drums are now extending. This is so cool, the way he's elongating and just going to town on that drum pattern, the way it feels like it's boiling over. It's really, really awesome. It makes my heart beat faster. It's very exciting. Ooh, gong. Whoa. I love the decision to end the percussion with the gong, has that ethnic element. And I also love that as they were rising and these huge long lines of strings and extended percussion elements, that at the very end, they decided to do a quick cutoff. It was sudden. It was abrupt. It was exciting. Even the ending of this piece was exciting. There were so many brilliant, exciting moments in there. I'm going to continue to go back and listen to Robert Plant's solos because they make me laugh and get excited about vocal improvisation all over again. He's so talented, so creative. Just what a brilliant mind and vocalist. Wow. Thank you to all of you for this incredible recommendation. If you'd like to hear some more analysis of classic rock, you can check out this playlist over here. And I'm glad that we have finally tackled Led Zeppelin. You can expect much more.